I'd like to call the Monday, August 22nd, 2022 Board of Education meeting to order. All those present, please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We've got two items on the consent agenda this evening, the approval of the minutes from July 25th and the statement of receipts and expenditures for July 22nd. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Is there any discussion? It's like we haven't done this in a while. All those in favor of the motion, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? And it passes. Thank you. Mr. Nelson, the superintendent's report.
Yes, since the last time we met, we've had a couple things happen that aren't on my report. But one is the groundbreaking at Woodview for their outdoor amphitheater. A number of you were there for that evening, which is great. Jill and her PTG did a great job of setting that up, and now I see La Rosa doing some work there, seeing some dirt moving and some equipment out there, which is great and super exciting to see over at Woodview, as well as our stadium turf has been finished. We've hosted a JV football game on there. Gladiators had a scrimmage this Saturday, and the football team plays this Friday. What was cool was speaking with Rick Radke, one of our custodians. He was mentioning that on that Friday, he looked out on the field and there were some cheerleaders out there practicing on the field. There were some cross-country runners that were out there stretching on it. And he's like, I had to resist the urge to like say, no, we gotta paint later, we gotta do this. And he's like, so it's great to see people using it in a lot of different groups. The band was able to use it for their final day of their camp. So some great things being used in that way. So those are some things that have happened over the last couple of weeks. And then coming up, we have our all-staff in-service coming up this Wednesday and Thursday, and then next Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday. Great start conferences for our elementary schools. August 30th and 31st, so that information is going out to parents. Parents are signing up for that. Great response, as usual, for that with our teachers, getting an opportunity to meet our youngest learners and their families. John Long Middle School has their sneak peek on August 29th. Grafton High School has their back-to-school night on September 7th. And then we have that staggered start for various reasons on the first day of school. So grades 6, 9, and 12 are on Thursday, September 1st. And then our grades EC, 4K through 5th, 7th, and 8th grades start on Friday, September 2nd. So rolling it out for various grades, 9th grade in the morning, 10th through 12th all in the afternoon, with the 9th graders and 6th grade just at their own day on that Thursday, September 1st. And then we bring everyone back on the 2nd. So we're excited for the beginning of school. It's I think beginning of school is the best day of school, in all honesty. Everyone's excited. See a lot of pictures getting taken with families as they get ready for the school day and dressed up and so forth. And then an enrollment update that we have for the board is we've seen some of our classes grow, and so it's great to see enrollment pieces that are growing in the district through both new construction, people moving into our district, through some open enrollment pieces and so forth. If you can make that maybe just a little bit bigger, Kara. And you'll notice that we've broken it down by EC, which tends to grow throughout the year. Our 4K students, 5K, and then all the way through 5th. And you'll notice that we have it broken down by Kennedy and Woodview. And Kennedy has 60 in 4K and Woodview has 41. And that's because there are 3 sections at Kennedy. There are 2 sections at Woodview. So that's where we have the larger group of the 4K. But you can see then we give a ratio of 20.2. 5K is that 20.67. You'll remember last year at this time, 5K had spiked. It had spiked in the 2 weeks leading up to it. Went from right before registration through registration, which I should have mentioned, we had just district-wide registration. 93% of our people, which is the highest, Rick had said, that's the highest we've ever had register ahead of time. But this year we did not see that spike. We saw that huge spike last year in kindergarten. It was at a time when we weren't able to post for a new teacher, trying to get a new classroom in each of those buildings. So we ended up paying for then having a full-time aide, having an extra adult in all those classrooms. Realizing that wasn't perfect, but we did the best with what we could. And knowing that we had that bubble with that big group, so you can see that 158 students, we did create that bubble in first grade. So you'll see there's 8 sections in first grade. So it went from 6 in kindergarten to 8, and you can see how that breaks out at both Kennedy and Woodview. And then in second grade, third, fourth, and fifth grade, you'll notice those numbers there. And so it puts us at 937 students at our elementary schools. If you figure out that there's 19 less 4Kers at Woodview than there are at Kennedy, the numbers are very similar. A little bit more at the younger elementary at Kennedy, a little bit more at the older elementary at Woodview if you look at the trend there. And you'll see at our secondary level, in the middle school, we have 155 in sixth grade, 139 in seventh, and 151 in eighth. And then as you look at the high school, you get to 184, 186, 165, 177. Last year at this time, that we were worried about the eighth grade class, the size of that going into ninth grade, and we've had a number of students both coming in. They've maximized the open enrollment seats that we had available, and there's a waiting list with that. But you'll see that those numbers are quite high, and we're over 700 for the first time in a number of years at the high school. Traditionally, 10, 12, 15 years ago, that was 780. It was normal to be in that area. But being above 700, I think, is the first time in my time here. I'm not sure, Mr. Manti, during your time. It's got to be close. Yeah. It's been under now, coming down. So it's first year there that we were coming down, now we're coming back up. So you'll see Kara put in here the numbers that we were in August of 2021 last year. And you'll see that we're a little up at Kennedy with 9 students, a little down at Woodview with 6 students, middle school up 29, and the high school up 11 from where we were last year. And Topher, of course, is watching these numbers by the hour and tracking it. I think last year we did go from 2052 to 2043 or something by third Friday count. 2043. So it's a rough number. Could go up a little, could go down. Now some people are finally making that final decision. Did I move to another district? Did I move out of state? Am I coming in? Some of those pieces that we get finalized, things that we've heard over the summer now get finalized, whether coming into the district or moving out. But a positive that, as we'll hear later with the budget, could be very positive as we look ahead in the future. So just giving an update to the board. Enrollment is strong. Certain areas very strong. There's still a couple areas that there's a potential, almost opposite of a bubble. So we're looking to try and have that stabilize and have a similar number all the way through each of the grade levels. So it helps us with planning and hiring and so forth. So, but that gives you an update on our enrollment that goes with that. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Any questions? All right, we'll move on. Thank you. Public comment. Anyone here this evening for public comment? Please come on forward. State your name and address.
Sarah Cooper, 2140 Shoshone Street. I am actually going off of what Mr. Nelson just brought up. I'm a first grade and second grade parent at Kennedy. So one, I'm beyond thankful that you added an extra bubble class because my son's class as of today has 20 kids in it. Much more better than last year where he was at 26. Now my daughter in second grade as of today has 26 kids in it, and it's growing. I know right now they have the apartment building being proposed, which is 4 stories. Riverbend is still being built per the village. And they have the new one over on Woodview being built, the whole subdivision. So I guess my question is, I really want to know what this long-term looks like, because we added kids just this year to both those classes. And if we add 1, 2, 3 more every year, by the time they get to junior high or the end of elementary, these are going to be sizable classes, and I can't be the only grade affected by it. So I don't know what the solutions are, if it's we keep adding a bubble class, but there has been talk of moving grades around to fit these bubble classrooms. I'm already wondering next year if we have 4 for second grade, the first grade going to second grade, where they end up. And I'm trying to see what the long-term effects are of the growing population in Grafton, because you are rated amazing. We came here for the schools, so I'm not the only person who does this. But the more houses mean more kids, which means more in the school district, which means we're running out of room. And I look even more long-term of if there's room in the junior high now, what happens when this first, second grade get there? Will it run out of room? Will it run out of room in the high schools? Because we're here for the long term. And I want to make sure they get the best education and they're in a smaller ratio classroom. Like the 1 to 20 is amazing. I am concerned of 1 to 26, especially if a few more kids show up this year. So I would really like to know what's past a year from now, but really the 5 to 10 years, if these kids still stick here and we grow as much as we're planning to grow. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Van Sluis, and I'm here on behalf of the Grafton Education Foundation. And we just have a couple minor updates. Just wanted to let you know that we're currently in discussion of when our next Night of Giving will be held. We are definitely contemplating when. So the when is the big question mark, and we haven't determined that yet. But just know that we're in the works on that because we know that that's a great fundraiser for us. Secondly, we're planning to have the next Color Blast run in 2023. We are not doing one this year. A lot of different factors played into that, but we're definitely excited about using the space outside for 2023. So, and then lastly, we're working on sending out the mailings for Seeds to Harvest. So you should see that coming shortly. And that's it. Thank you.
Anything else this evening from anyone? I've received no emails and none were shared. All right, item C, personnel report.
Yes, I am pleased to report that we are fully staffed with our certified staffing needs. We have a part-time interventionist that we're finalizing. Otherwise, all of our staffing needs were finalized before we had our new teacher orientation last week, which was great, last Wednesday and Thursday. So we were able to have our new staff meet with district office personnel and their principal and their mentor and get them ready to successfully prepare for the year. To get to that point, though, we did have to submit for a 1-year license with stipulations to fill one of the positions. It was a hard to fill position, and we had a part-time position at the high school that we were not able to fill with a qualified candidate. So we had to reduce some of the classes into larger class sizes, and we had to ask staff to take on an overload with additional pay, but take on those classes in order to be able to offer the classes. So the part-time positions was something that was just, we'd had open for a lengthy amount of time and just were not able to fill with someone else, someone qualified for that position. So I do want to thank our principals, though, and our staff. I mean, they worked very hard throughout the summer. As soon as these openings would come up, even back in March when we were posting early, so we get the best quality candidates that we could for each of our positions. And then throughout the summer, they've done a great job of working to fill these things and making it a priority. As we were going through the year, and we felt like this a little last year, but as we were going through our openings this year, it felt like we were having less candidates. And we were very fortunate as you meet these teachers, and I'll talk about the personnel report and ask for approval for them. We've had some really great people apply to be in our district, but we did feel as though the enrollment number, the numbers were a little lower. And so I did ask Topher to run some numbers for us over the last 5 years and sort of set the stage for, okay, we feel this way, what is the data saying to us? And not going back 10 years or 15 years, but really in the last 5 years, has there been a trend that we've seen? So before we get into the personnel report, I'd like him to sort of walk us through some of the applicants, the number of applicants that we've seen for each of our positions by various levels, because that's something that's impacting us currently, and we have some ideas on how we can address it in the future. But I've asked him to walk us through some of these things before I go through the personnel report.
Yeah, so we're going to take a look at the number of applicants we had per position for regular ed elementary, regular ed 6 through 12, our cross-categorical teachers, and finally taking a look at our part-time positions that we've had posted. So looking at the average number of applicants for our elementary positions, you can see it has declined significantly from a number of years ago. Jeff mentioned if going back and looking at 10 or 15, that's probably when you might hear someone say back in the good old days when we had hundreds of people apply. That really hasn't been the case over the past 5 years, but you can see a definite downward trend in the number of applicants per position that we're getting for elementary teachers, whether that's a kindergarten through 5th grade classroom or a specialist classroom position. Looking at our 6-12 classroom regular ed positions, we've also seen a decline markedly this year with half the number of applicants we had the prior year at the 6-12 level. Looking at our cross-categorical positions, this is throughout the district, so this is district-wide. Again, you see a significant decline in the number of positions. No one would even say we were high 2 years ago at 12, but now we're looking at getting 4 people applying per posted position. When we look at part-time positions, those numbers are fairly low as well, looking at filling those part-time positions, certainly from a couple years ago when we had many more applicants for those positions. Finally, on top of that, I just wanted to bring some data regarding enrollment in our teacher FTE over time. So we, as you're well aware, last year we had a significant growth in our enrollment. In particular, as was mentioned earlier, that was at the kindergarten level. So of the growth we had last year, 28 was at the kindergarten level. The other 20 were kind of spread out throughout the district. And so we do have this year 2 additional first grade teachers, and you'll see that reflected in the teacher FTE for 22-23. I'll point out that the enrollment for 22-23 is still not really finalized. The other enrollment headcount numbers are from the third Friday headcount, third Friday in September, so that 2,095 is still a number that might move around a bit. So we just thought we'd bring that information to your attention, see if you had any questions regarding that.
I've got one. How does that compare to state numbers?
We don't have the number per state, right? So to get these numbers, I went into our We Can account, counted how many people applied for each of those positions. There might be a study that's out there that might be trying to gather those numbers, but I wouldn't even be able to tell you unless I asked my counterparts and they went through this exercise, how many applicants they had per position. So we don't know that.
Thank you.
I did just today, in fact, in one of the newsletters that I read, district administration, they have published a report, I think it's a 10-year report on nationwide staffing shortages, what regions, what states are faring the best and the worst. And I think Wisconsin was somewhat in the middle. It was 195 pages. I didn't read it all, but we're in the middle of the road. But I think there is analysis that's out there. Whether it's at the state level, I have no idea.
I haven't seen one on the number of applicants. I've seen one that talks about the teacher shortage. So I think, the national news is there's a teacher shortage, and there's a counter thought of like, well, there's a student shortage. It's not there's a teacher shortage, there's a student shortage, and people have too many teachers, or teachers have left the profession because there's not enough kids. So there's 2 narratives that are occurring, and there's another narrative saying, well, there's plenty of teachers, just they don't want to work in this environment. Right? There's other environments that they could work in that maybe pay more, have different political things. There's all kinds of narratives that go together with this. As we look at this, we've been fortunate, as we've said, as we've gone into interviews, principals saying, I need one. I need one great teacher. Doesn't matter how many have applied, I just need one. Now, but as the pool shrinks, the less chance you have of every time getting a great candidate. And that's what we're seeing is, what's the why? We always talk about the why behind all these things. Well, then the why is then class sizes have to go up. We have to reduce classes. We aren't able to secondary level maybe offer certain electives. If you can't find someone in a hard to fill position, then maybe that becomes an online class. Offer it in a different way. You can't do that at the elementary level, but there are things you can do at the secondary level that aren't best for kids, but based on pieces that are out there may drive districts to that. I was talking to a local superintendent on Saturday at the scrimmage and talking about some of those pieces, and we had a discussion. There's a study about teacher shortages in Wisconsin is in the top 10 of the most shortages. So it does seem to be there's certain states that are doing fine with teachers. There's other states that aren't doing as well, but that's the teacher shortage, not applicants or anything that would go with that. We aren't having that problem. We're able to hire high quality people. We have high quality people we're bringing in. But it is something that we are very aware of being an issue. We're talking with an admin about as building leaders, how can we retain high quality talent? And we're talking at district office, how can we continue to recruit high quality talent? What do we need to do to develop pipelines with local universities, student teachers, some of those pieces that we need to do. We need to incentivize some of our staff to have student teachers. It's more work for them but that's a pipeline that we need. So what are some things that we haven't done in the past that would set us up for success, and how can we build our own? How can we have students that are currently in our school system who think they want to be teachers? How can we help them have an experience while they're in our high school of getting ready for college, and then guarantee them at least an interview when they come back, when they graduate from college? Are there incentives that we can build in like that? So the narrative across the nation is the sky is falling. That's not our narrative. Our narrative is we're staffed, we feel good about the team that we have, but we are watching these numbers and concerned that the numbers for applications are shrinking, and that's in Grafton. Like, this is a great district. This is not a different district that's up north, and you're like, well, they're not near a big city, or I'm stuck in the big city and I can't pull it in. I mean, this is a premier district, and trying to bring high quality candidates to it is an issue that we're dealing with, and I know other districts are as well. So it's keeping the board informed of that we're tracking this data, we're watching it, and we'll continue to make sure we bring high quality teachers and retain high quality teachers as well to our district.
Yeah, I think that's the key, understanding this data to determine new strategies, different strategies of retention and recruitment is imperative. It's a competitive market. It always will be, even though the applicant pool shrinks. We can ensure ourselves with good strategy getting the best candidates. That's what we need to be about.
Yes.
Are you seeing in the candidate pool, are you seeing the people that are applying, are they just out of college candidates? Are they people that are looking to leave other districts? Is there any kind of a trend as far as whom you're seeing that is applying?
It's mixed, and it's really based on the content that we're hiring for. You'll notice that the people that we're bringing forward for new hires, one has 3 years of experience. I think Brad has 12, and I think Jenny has 10 or 12 or something like that. I don't, off the top of my head, I know it's in the board packet. But so you have a newer person and then some veteran people. So, and when you look at our new staff picture, you see younger teachers, and you see more veteran teachers. So it's there does seem to be a trend if you live close to a district, that there's people maybe looking to come closer to where they live. I don't know if the pandemic brought that on with working from home, and that 30-minute commute in that one way is a bigger deal, or gas prices, or our district being a really viable place. But I mean, Jen Reeves, who we lost to become an instructional coach, different position, but closer to home. Like I think there's some of those pieces, but we aren't seeing only brand new teachers or only veteran. We are seeing veteran teachers apply to us, which is great, because that means that they're looking to lock in and be here long term. Because you're getting to a point where am I gonna retire from? But it seems to be more based on the content or the grade level. And like this year, we had a student teacher and we had a building sub that we ended up hiring both of them. It was like a semester or almost a full year for the other job interview, and both we feel great about having that internal pipeline, and we need more of that. I think there's three graduates in this group of new teachers that are coming back that are alum of the high school.
And then is the sense of the other superintendents in the area, I mean, are they kind of in the same situation that we are, or are they still in a position that they're maybe looking for staff?
A search on Weekend today showed that there are multiple districts in Ozaukee County still having openings, and that's in Ozaukee County.
Okay. Certainly a good position for us then.
Any additional questions? All right, then we have some
so
changes in staff.
Yep, we'd ask for approval from the board for the resignation of Jennifer Reeves, math teacher at John Long Middle School, and new hires of Brad Doro, math teacher at John Long Middle School, Jenny Marks, .5 counselor at Grafton High School, and Jacob Wildy, special education teacher at Grafton High School. And then informational, we have resignation of Deborah Brenzowski, special ed aide at Grafton High School, and new hires of Trance Dawson, special ed aide at Woodview, and Maggie Profrek, special ed aide at Grafton High School.
Okay, so we'll take the changes in staffing individually. So do I have a motion to accept the resignation of Jennifer Reeves, math teacher at John Long Middle School?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that motion passes. Now a motion to approve the new hires, Brad Doro, math teacher at John Long Middle School, Jenny Marks, counselor, half-time at Grafton High School, and Jacob Wilde, special education teacher at Grafton High School.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion regarding those hires? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that motion passes. Thank you. Item D, 2021-2022 year-end budget report.
Yeah, so I will be presenting the fiscal results of 2021-22. This is also going to be presented, so information like this will be presented at the annual meeting next month. So just taking a look at our expenditures by category. We've been talking about this at different points during the year, the fact that certain capital objects such as Chromebooks and such have been reclassified as a non-capital object. So we did record those expenditures as non-capital objects, even though we budgeted for them in capital objects. So that's just really kind of a swap out on that piece. Operating transfer out is a result of the fact that we are not actually transferring money into Fund 46 last fiscal year. We're going to set it aside for a future transfer. Also in Fund 27, we had additional revenues over what we had expected, and expenditures were below what we had expected. When looking at the Fund 27 expenditures, we typically see this in the non-capital objects. We budget in our flow-through grant potential purchases, and we typically do come under, but we're prepared for needing potentially expensive items in the flow-through grant. When we look at revenue, two areas really stand out, and that's federal revenue as well as other or miscellaneous revenue. So I've broken that out as we want to take a look at that. So between ESSER 3 and ESSER 2, we claimed $1.2 million, or sorry, $2.1 million last year in ESSER funds. The COVID relief funds from the state of Wisconsin, those are the funds that were basically dispersed by the governor's office. And that amounted to about $230 per student, coming to $260,000 for our district. We had emergency connectivity funds. Those are somewhat similar to E-rate. However, this was a program that had certainly more going on with it. A lot of thanks to Rick, who was aggressive at going out and claiming these funds to cover technology costs for the district. That brought in nearly $150,000 this past year. And we also had a Get Kids Ahead grant of $36,000. Those are all federal funds. Then in the other category, we did have an insurance settlement for the damage to the small gymnasium at JLMS. Of course, this revenue is certainly counterbalanced by the fact that we did have to actually fix the gymnasium and spend the money to get that taken care of. And then we did have ARPA COVID leave relief come in. You may recall we participated in the COVID leave policy or program in March of 2021. Participating in that program meant you could be reimbursed for the costs of providing that leave. That money finally came in this year, $65,000. So with those significant one-time funds, I'll point out, these aren't funds that are going to be available next year. These are one-time revenues. We did see a nearly $3 million increase in our fund balance, of which we are setting aside $2 million in a revenue stabilization fund to help us weather future budgets, in particular the upcoming one where we have not received any additional spendable revenue from the state for the second year in a row, even though we do have pretty intense inflationary pressures on the district. And we're also able to set aside $900,000 and commit that to a fund balance that would be transferred in the 2023-24 fiscal year, leaving us with a little over $5 million in fund balance, which meets the board policy fund balance ratio of at least 15%. Any questions on the recent fiscal year's results?
Any questions for Topher? No,
Okay,
thank you.
that was information only now. We'll move ahead to some items that we'll be looking for for approval.
Keep going.
So our health insurance renewal, we talked about this at our finance committee earlier this month. It was announced on June 1st that WEA Trust would be leaving the health insurance industry as of December 31st of this year. Concern has been the deterioration of services as they are basically going out of business and people would be leaving to take jobs elsewhere. In fact, they did announce and did in fact shut down the Maddie portal as of July 31st, which we as an employer as well as our employees are able to access to get information about insurance. So that's a concern. Our Horton, our health insurance advisor, was on the ball, aggressive, and did reach out to get bids for potential January 1st renewal if we were to carry through with WEA Trust all the way through December, but also looking at potential 15-month renewals that would begin October 1st. So we received a number of bids for those various pieces, and the best renewal offer that was on the table was a 15-month renewal with Humana. That would be a renewal that would begin October 1st. As you may recall, they were our health insurance carrier from 2013 through 2019. This renewal would come with a 6% premium increase on the HSA plan, which is the plan that the district uses to determine the contribution and the cost to the district. The copay plan would have a 4.3% premium increase. Both plans would have a similar plan design that it has right now. For anyone who has met their deductible, met their maximum out of pocket, that would transfer to Humana. So they wouldn't have to start over with any of their deductibles or maximum out of pockets. Those, what they've worked on or what they've developed or what they've done to reach those amounts would transfer over with Humana. The employee contribution amounts would change January 1st. That would be following our typical open enrollment period in November. And then as far as the district budget for 22-23, renewing with Humana, approving this renewal, would reduce our expenditure budget by $27,000. As you may recall, our budget was previously based on a 9.9% renewal January 1st. In terms of the impact to employees, the per month cost to employees on the high deductible plan would be an increase of $10 per month if you're on the family plan, $4 per month if you're on the single plan. And for the PPO, there's actually a slight reduction because the premium for the copay went up 4.2%. The districts, with the high deductible plan going up 6%, that caused the district's contribution to go up faster. Be a $4 reduction in the PPO family per month, $2 reduction for PPO single. In addition, one other thing I will add with having to make that change, or with making that change October 1st and allowing people to earn the wellness incentive for wellness earned through October. They can't earn that anymore. So we'll have to base it on wellness earned through September, the points that they've earned. So we're going to just require that people meet the silver status rather than gold status to meet wellness. As we talked about at the Finance Committee, we're not expecting that to change the outcomes necessarily, as typically the people who don't earn the wellness incentive are the people who never intended wanted to or tried to meet that. Any questions before taking a look at the recommended motion that came out of the Finance Committee and from administration?
Just a point of clarification, any deductibles that people have paid carry over, not
Correct.
just if you've met them.
Nope.
You
So
talked
if
about
you
met,
have-
but it's anything that went over.
Right, so if you've met 2,000 of your deductibles so far, that'll transfer over to Humana, you can carry on from there.
And the premium increases or the employee contribution increases effective 1/1 are assuming the district contribution stays the same and the employees are picking up 100% of the increase, or is it a pro rata
It's a pro rata.
share of the
Yes.
increase? Okay, okay. And that's effective 1/1,
Correct.
okay. And you raise a good point. We did have a Finance Committee meeting on August 8th. It's not reflected in the minutes, but substantially everything at the agenda of the Finance Committee is being presented tonight. Missed that one, but there was significant discussion regarding this change at the Finance Committee, as there always is with matters of this nature. Any additional questions? Hearing none, then I'd entertain a motion to adopt the administrative recommendation regarding the health insurance change from WA Trust to Humana, as presented.
So moved.
Second. One last time for discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and it passes. Thank you. Keep going, 20-year capital maintenance plan.
Yep, so our capital maintenance plan, also a topic of discussion at the Finance Committee a couple of weeks ago. So at Finance, we reviewed and discussed these completed projects from this past summer. Again, most of these costs are hitting that 21-22 budget. Because they're summer projects, some of them, of course, some of those costs will bleed over into this fiscal year. But these are the projects that were completed and were up for discussion at Finance. We also had identified projects in the capital plan, newly identified projects, some because they're 20 years out, some are newly identified that are coming online that as we work through our buildings and our new systems, we find. So we had these up for discussion at the Finance Committee as well. And taking a look at that overall plan and considering where we have essentially landed with our fiscal year just finished back on June 30th, both the Finance Committee and administration recommending a $900,000 amount of fund balance be committed to a future transfer to Fund 46 in the 2023-24 fiscal year. And then with that, we would essentially have over $2.1 million committed for future projects in our capital maintenance plan. This would fully fund our capital maintenance plan up until 2032-33, assuming the annual $210,000 contributions would continue. Any questions with regard to the capital maintenance plan and the two approvals we're looking for tonight?
There's no contribution, no intended contribution for 21-22.
Correct. There has not been one.
Right.
So we're keeping shared costs down,
Correct.
committing it to fund balance, and then in July of 2023, in that fiscal year, then we can make that transfer. Then that shared cost will hit the 23-24 fiscal year, where we already have enough shared costs where we believe that will trigger the hold harmless provision in state aid. And so we'll avoid losing state aid on that.
23-24,
Correct.
as we enter 22-23. Okay, so we're skipping 20-21, 22, and 20.
Correct. So we have
22-23.
$210,000 budgeted
Right.
as a placeholder But the plan would be that would go into a committed fund balance.
Yes.
To then be transferred pretty much right away in the new fiscal year.
Can the commitment be undone by a future board?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Any additional questions? And again, all of this in an effort to minimize, right? Is that the right word, or maximize? Minimize shared.
Minimize shared costs
Costs.
in the years where we don't have debt payments, or, for example, last year where we had significant federal revenue come in and lower shared costs.
Right.
We want to book the shared costs every other year when we do have scheduled Fund 39 debt payments.
All right, hearing no other questions, and I'd entertain a motion to approve the 20-year capital maintenance plan.
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the approval of the 20-year capital maintenance plan, aye? Aye. Opposed? And it passes. Then I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the commitment of $900,000 of fund balance for a transfer to Fund 46 in the 2023-2024 fiscal year.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, aye? Aye. Opposed? And the motion passes. Thank you, Topher. Item G, approval of open enrollment seats.
Each January, you as a board approve the recommended number of open enrollment seats by grade level for the next school year. The open enrollment period opens early February and it closes the end of April. Whenever we have more applicants than seats, we have to do a lottery system to choose students. And then those seats are granted to those families, and if they choose not to come to Grafton, then we start going down our wait list. So we did that process all summer long. We had registration last week, and yet we have 2 families who have been granted open enrollment seats to at least one of their children, but there's still one that was not granted a seat. So you as a board can approve additional open enrollment seats. And we are asking, and I know in your board memo it said 3 families, but we're actually down to 2 families. Late on Friday, there was a family that decided not to enroll their child, so the next child on the wait list was able to get in. So we are recommending that you approve 1 additional 4K seat at Kennedy and an 8th grade seat at John Long, so that these families can remain together in the Grafton School District.
Jeff and I looked into this, and it's consistent with the policy that this come forward, with our board policy, this come back to the board for approval of these additional seats. So
Along the state statute, or looked into that as well.
Ah.
It's a unique thing as well within the state statute, and make sure that the update that was coming from Neola doesn't have a different piece with open enrollment as well. So we put a lot of effort into looking at this and also making sure that this wouldn't cause bigger class sizes that we aren't able to afford at the various levels as well. And that's why we brought this forward.
Perfect. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the administrative recommendation regarding the increases in open enrollment seats as presented.
As corrected.
As corrected.
So 1 4K seat
One
at Kennedy
4K seat
and 1
and
8th
one
grade seat.
8th grade seat.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, aye? Aye. Opposed? And the motion passes. Thank you. All right, that brings us to item 5. Adjournment into closed session. The Board of Education will convene into closed session to consider 1, performance-related data and compensation of the superintendent, and 2, strategies for crime detection or prevention. This is in accordance with Wisconsin State Statutes 19.85, Section 1, subsection C and D. Do I have a motion to move into closed?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Take a voice vote. Blair?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
And yes, we're in closed. Thank you.